In My Hero Academia chapter 426, we have Shoto's epilogue, the finale of the hellish Todoroki family. Natsuo and Fuyumi stood together while telling their mother that she didn't need to come along with them. Natsuo has a shorter hairstyle and a few burn marks on his face. Fuyumi's facial burns are a bit more prominent. Rei reminded them that the same could be said about them, and her scars are even more noticeable. They're reminiscent of the one she gave Shoto, but further reaching. These are all on account of their heated family reunion during the final war. Their bodies have finally caught up to the scars on their hearts. A thoroughly bandaged Endeavor reminded his wife that she didn't need to come along either. Shoto entered a holding facility along with the rest of them. He spoke for all of them when he said that a sense of duty wasn't what brought them here today. Ahead of them was a large pod-like medical container. An officer let them know that the man they were visiting was only capable of speaking for a few minutes a day. This wasn't due to any imposed restrictions, but rather the patient's physical state. Shoto looked up at it silently. Within, their relative's body was held together by some manner of mechanical framework. The officer continued to say that Toya Todoroki is gradually and definitively approaching death. The villain opened his eyes to meet theirs. He casually mocked their presences and his own position. It was as if he was a tourist destination for happy families. But laughing like this was enough to put a strain on his body and cause him to cough severely. Rei showed concern for her son's condition. Endeavor cut to the chase and admitted that he came to talk about what the future will hold. Dabi carefully listened to his words. Endeavor announced that he would be retiring as a hero. Shoto averted his gaze as his father continued. This was Enji's plan even before the war began, but at this point, he's missing an arm and is wheelchair bound, incapable of walking on his own. He professed that the hero known as Endeavor burned to death. He admitted that his son's flames truly were stronger than his own. This caused Dabi's vitals to spike. Now looking like Unit 1 from Evangelion, the villain sarcastically shared his condolences. As his vitals continued to flare, he criticized the retiring hero for cowardly saying all this once everything was already said and done. His father agreed. He conceded that Toya knows everything about him, especially considering the fact that Toya was always watching him. Dabi didn't respond to that. Enji recognized that his firstborn wanted the same from him, but he failed. He remembered the desperate cries of the son he neglected. Despite Deku's declaration during the First War that Dabi is not Endeavor, something that shook the number one hero to his core at the time, Endeavor thoroughly accepted the fact that his son's heat comes from his hell flame. He confessed that he's been watching his son's indictment video every single day. He remembered Dabi's delirious pleas for his father to look at him. And now, Dabi struggled to look at his dad directly, but Enji's gaze remained fixed. From now on, he vowed to visit his son every day. He wanted the two of them to talk to one another. This is exactly what we expected to be their shared conclusion since Dabi revealed his true identity. So it's pretty surreal to see. Toya simply observed without uttering a word as the machine he was connected to continued to beep at an accelerated pace. Enji knew that it was far too late, but he still wanted to talk. The officer let them know that Toya's heart rate was becoming dangerously quick. Anything more would be dangerous. Enji called out to the rest of their family and urged them to make good use of the extra time Shoto was able to give them to talk to Toya. He was more than willing to accept all of his son's hatred. He insisted that it all be hurled his way. Natsuo remained stoic, while Fuyumi urged her big brother to do the same to her. His mother let him know that there are many things she wants to talk to him about too. The emotional toll was too much for the prisoner to bear, however. He closed his eyes as his heartbeat continued to race. They had reached the limit. It was time for the family to leave and come back tomorrow. But Shoto wanted to ask one last question to his eldest brother. There was something he had been meaning to ask for a while now. He asked his brother what his favorite food is. This is a callback to a conversation he had with Ida, Hiroshima, and Bakugo ahead of the final war. Shoto was sad that he doesn't even know what his older brother likes or dislikes. Bakugo's guess was that the guy probably likes udon or something like that. In response, Shoto smiled and said if that's the case, he wouldn't mind having dinner with him sometime. Dabi's visage became shrouded and he didn't respond. The family waited to no avail. It was clear that Toya's body had reached its limit, so they decided to let him rest. Shoto began leaving with the others, but before they were gone, Toya answered that his favorite food is soba, which is another type of Japanese noodles. Shoto turned back with widened eyes. With a brightness to his appearance, he let his brother know that soba is his favorite food too. This is something Horikoshi told us about a long time ago thanks to a manga volume extra. We've also seen Shoto eat it during lunch at UA. And thanks to the Cook Hero Lunch Rush, the kids have access to top-tier versions of any foods they want. In the anime version, Shoto even shares his soba with Deku. Horikoshi also left Dabi's favorite thing as question marks for his own volume extra. Dabi thought deeply about Shoto's words, both past and present. Back when they fought, Dabi insisted that the two of them were fated to run in parallel and would forever remain apart. But Shoto insisted that the two of them would overlap whether his brother likes it or not. And now they have. Not due to shared trauma, quirks, or status, but as people. The revelation was enough to make Toya cry. He closed his eyes against a flood of emotions and said his little brother's name, followed by an apology. And all things considered, this is the last time we will see Dabi in this story. The family was now outside of the facility. Natsuo let it be known that this is where they part ways. He turned to his father and apologized for being unable to change his own mind. This would be the last time they ever see each other again. And she accepted without hesitation. Natsuo plans on starting a family with his girlfriend. They won't be holding a ceremony, and he refused to introduce him to her. It's nice to know that he'll be breaking this family tree's curse of unhealthy branches, and that he'll be getting married due to love and not based on quirks like the two sides of his family. Again, his father was without objections and simply apologized. But Natsuo wondered about Fuyumi since she quit her job of teaching. His sister smiled and let him know that the mother of one of her former students has been really supportive by introducing her to a new occupation. Despite his issues with their father, Natsuo honestly believed that the man had already fulfilled his responsibility. He recognized that Enji had been punished enough and wondered if he couldn't just stop at this point. But Enji vowed to apologize and provide reparations for his crimes for the rest of his life. Like he said before, he's watched Dabi's announcement to the world every day, and in it, the villain confessed to having killed 30 innocent people in cold blood. That's disregarding the many less savory characters he's incinerated over the years, the burden of which the former hero has accepted as his own. He let his children know that they didn't need to watch him anymore. In fact, he would do everything in his power to keep them away from it, and keep the blame focused on himself. That if there is any reason for him still being alive, this is probably it. Natsuo let him know that it would be a hellish existence, but that was something that his father was well aware of. He made it clear that he accepted the dance invitation with open arms. Natsuo scratched his head in embarrassment, as this was the very first time that he has ever thought of his dad as cool. Natsuo wondered if Shoto would be going back to school, which he would be, so Natsuo offered to give his siblings a ride. Before getting in, Shoto called out to his parents. He let them know that he'll be okay since he has his friends by his side, that he's on the path to becoming who he wants to be. And I want you to know that I am fighting through my emotions here, because otherwise this stuff would have me crying more than Deku. His parents were being picked up by Endeavor's former sidekicks and driver. Kurumada was surprised by how quick the visit was and wondered how it went. Meanwhile, Burnin was just hungry. They're all banged up from dealing with Dabi too. Rei told her husband that even if they go to hell together, some people are still looking out for them. She smiled while holding up his phone. There were text messages from Hawks. He wondered how the conversation went, and like a fallen angel supporting his favorite demon, Hawks let Enji know that if there was anything bothering him, he was more than willing to listen. Enji turned to his wife with a smile. Now, obviously, these failed parents have one of the most toxic relationships imaginable, but this moment is cute. Hawks was elsewhere in a suit with the collar unbuttoned. He also has some facial scars of his own. He was baffled by the fact that the person in front of him didn't plan on leaving, even though he said it was fine. From the other side of a protection glass, Lady Nagan, whose own scars look really cool, reiterated that she wasn't going anywhere. Honestly, she was still afraid of the outside world, didn't want to be used again. Hawks was pretty bummed out since he wanted a senior agent's help with plenty of things. Kinda smiled. She wanted to wait and see how society would react to what Deku managed to show them all and observe the changes. Playfully, she told him that taxpayer dollars would be feeding her for a little while longer. To that, he called her quite the villain. Now, I'm hardly a shipper, but this is one I can get behind. In another facility, two genuine lovebirds were loudly reuniting. Gory wasn't a fan of the ruckus, but informed them that their contributions to society had been officially recognized and wished them well. The two were crying tears of joy while commending each other's efforts. Finally, they can bask in their love together. Hawks looked at the text messages from his favorite hero. Enji appreciated the sentiment and let him know that the family was fine. He also promised to let his junior know if there was anything they needed. And in regards to talking, he said it was fine. Hawks had to admire the family's toughness. Enji added that Hawks must be going through a lot too. It is then revealed that Hawks is now the new president of the Hero Public Safety Commission. That despite his youth, he remains determined to make a change using the very organization that once used him. Yet the question of how things will change still remains. From there, Hawks called Mera. As a reminder, Mera was a member of the Public Safety Commission that handled the provisional license exam. And after the former president was killed by Redestro, he stepped up to become the acting president, and has now stepped aside for Hawks. Shoto's epilogue is over. Next time, it will be Spinner's turn. He is in rough shape due to overburdening his body with multiple quirks. We can hear the sound of a hospital door opening, so it seems like he's being visited. Shigaraki asked Deku to tell Spinner something on his behalf, so we can expect to see that. The only other living member of the League of Villains is Mr. Compress. The last time we saw him, he was in the same prison as Gaten. And since Spinner is a heteromorph that had been subjected to terrible discrimination, we may also see Shoji and Kota, especially since they were the ones to face him during the final war. Horikoshi subtly showed us the order of these epilogues when Deku was still in the hospital. First, we have Shoto, then Spinner, then Uraraka. And he recently gave us a very important update about the end of the series. Quote, "Sorry for the 2-week hiatus. Due to various schedule conflicts, it has become like a millefeuille, which is a type of multi-layered pastry. It will be completed in 5 episodes. Opinions may differ as to whether you think there are still 5 episodes left, or only 5 episodes left, but I'll do my best for the remaining 5 episodes so that both can enjoy it, with Deku and friends. It was a bit of a mess, but the reason I was able to draw Deku and his friends for almost 10 years was because you continued reading. It was like a dream. Thank you very much." Well then, see you again at Jump. What an absolute legend. But now that we know that this chapter was one of a 5-part conclusion, I am under the impression that the 2 panels below these 3 are indicative of the final 2 as well. So presumably, after Uraraka, we will have a chapter dedicated to Deku's recovery and path forward. This is on account of him clutching onto his body. So, the fate of his quirk, the use of his embers, a moment with his mother, and even the long-awaited reveal of his father may be expected from that one. And with the finale, the light will shine once again, and we'll know how things end up changing. These are the final weeks, my friends. Again, it's pretty hard for me not to be emotional when a series that is so important to me is ending, but I hope we can all smile about it regardless. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching, and have an awesome day. I love you.